It's been a nice few snowy days, which has interfered with my ability to go to the movies, which is, not great for me, but here we are. Welcome to the Reviews. We are going to discuss the biggest news that I saw, and I want to do an episode before I forget to bring in the month of February, considering we're a month out, just about, from the return of the show, The Flash. We'll be coming back in March, bringing back Nora and Bart, who are fucking up shit on the timeline, as usual, and Rick Cosnett will be back as Eddie, and I would assume at some point we're gonna get, I would say probably more than likely more Thawne. But news broke this last weekend. As we have news that the CW is, up for sale, and they're trying to move it into, it's, the CW isn't really running at a profit, and, I know the episode that I did about the CW going for sale ended up on Beware of Spoilers because I fucked up, but, looking at what the CW does, and how that works with the network, and how the lucrative streaming deals are where a lot of the money comes in, the question is probably, why are we bothering to put it on, terrestrial cable at all, if we can just put it directly to HBO Max and get basically the same return. It doesn't make sense, especially for shows like, all those DC shows that end up on there, and then they go to, CW Seed and all of that. It could just be straight HBO Max. They migrate it over, and then you get the fan base from there who would move over to HBO Max and watch it religiously on there. And there's no reason why they don't do that, besides the fact that they do that. They don't do it. And on top of it, there's also the ratings issue, where that's the only reason why I think they wouldn't do that, is ratings. And that is, having all of these on terrestrial cable, I feel like it's different from having to watch 5 shows on streaming, watching 5 shows on basic cable. I don't know why, and I feel like I'm not alone in this, but I feel like it's a totally different feeling. Like watching 5 streaming shows that are all going on weekly over watching one, thing like that. And that's the thing too. It's like, they can turn, they can do like DC Day, and it's like, here's all your DC shows, and they all come out on one day, and probably Thursday gets to fuck Disney Plus, which is what it appears they did with Peacemaker, if I'm being completely honest. So all of that's happening, and they're considering selling CW to Nexstar. And I think that the thing that's worth noting in all of this is that, what the fuck? What's worth noting in all of this is that the report out of Deadline, I saw it, is that Grant Gustin signed a new contract for another season. And if you've listened to me on Beware of Spoilers all through Armageddon, you'll know I thought the show was ending after this season. Like, genuinely. I thought that season 8 of the show would be the last season. I didn't think they would go on for a 9th season, considering, a good amount of the cast has left. Like Carlos Valdez left, and Tom Cavanaugh left, although Tom Cavanaugh is still kind of recurring, where Carlos Valdez is not. Meanwhile, you got Danielle Panabaker's expecting her second kid. She just had her first kid not too long ago. She's expecting her second. And then you also have, and then I know that, Grant and his wife just had a kid. So it's like, oh, okay, this feels like a natural dropping off point. Like, this is the point where it's like, look, the show wants to end, and like, the cast wants to end, and that's that. But this new deal is very lucrative for Grant. The new contract is $200,000 an episode for 15 episodes, which is 200 times 2 times 5. 2 times 15 would be 30. So let's say $3 million, which is not terrible. I mean, look, it's not network money where it's like, like Johnny Galecki was getting like $2 million an episode, Jim Parsons was getting $2 million an episode for Big Bang Theory, but it is a nice chunk of change for the CW. $200,000 an episode is nothing to turn up your nose at, and they offered it, and he accepted. Now, another thing worth noting is The Flash is not the number one show on the network anymore. It held that title for a while, even doing better than Supernatural for a period, where it was the number one show on the network, and it's like, look, we're going to let the show go as long as it wants, as long as they want to continue doing it. And I understand that, tastes change and all that. I think All American, is the number one show on the network now, which I've been saying it since the show started. I gotta watch that show, because I love sports shows. Like, there was a show on Fox a few years ago, Pitch, about the first female, the first female pitcher in the MLB. It's fictional, but the girl from it is on Big Sky now, and the show is really good. And it only lasted one season, but the show was really good. I did really like that show, but I was waiting for this to do something similar. I don't know what I was waiting for, but like, it's one of the things where I intended to watch it, and I just haven't. I haven't watched the last season of Supergirl yet. I'm still way behind, and I'm behind on Batwoman, and we're getting off topic here, but like I said, The Flash isn't the number one show on the network anymore. So, but they kind of want to give them one last, one last ride, one last time out, and they're going to give them one more season. I don't think that... I think a 15-episode season is indicative of the fact that this will be the final season, unless the CW is just moving to 15-episode seasons from here on out for all of their shows. I don't think that's necessarily likely, because I still do want that, 22 to 26 episode thing that they've usually done. But it's entirely possible. It is very possible they're just moving that into where it is, but, based on conventional wisdom, I would say 15 episodes is indicative of, a shortened season, like how Arrow ended on a 12-episode season, I want to say. But I think that, if they're doing that, then I think that it's indicative that this is going to be the last year. There is no thought process behind that. I just think that that's the case. What else was there that I wanted to address with this? I also think that it would make sense. This is like, do you remember hearing after How I Met Your Mother ended that season 5 or season 3 they came up with the ending to How I Met Your Mother, and that was all set. And also famously, The Simpsons knows how The Simpsons is going to end. They have the last episode of The Simpsons is already written and everything. They're all set. And what's going to happen is, where it's I guess spoilers for anyone who doesn't want to know how The Simpsons is going to end. But it's been on the internet for almost a decade now, where it's what it's going to do. The first episode ends with them, or has to do with them going to a Christmas pageant. The last episode will end with them getting ready to go to that Christmas pageant. So it's just one big circular loop through the whole thing, and that's an interesting idea. How I Met Your Mother had an idea for the finale where it's where they're going to do the whole thing with Robin. That was established that was pretty quickly set up. Holy fuck, so much traffic on the expressway today. It's Lunar New Year too. Why is there so much traffic? I'm going to work too anyway, but, like, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like there's a chance that The Flash has had its finale set up and ready to go. Like, they know what they're going to do for that last episode. And I think I called it during Armageddon. I think I said that the last episode is going to end with Barry going back in time to the night his mother gets murdered as the full-fledged version of the Flash, who is fighting the Reverse Flash, with this version of the Reverse Flash intent on killing him and then deciding to kill his mother. I think the villain for next season could be Matt Leisure, his Reverse Flash, which would be great, I think. Like, if that's the villain next season, and it's all, he's going to come back in time and be like, look, if we really dive into what the Flash, or what the Reverse Flash is, then we can deconstruct that relationship, that would be a great final season. Where it's, he comes back and he's like, look, I am here to, I thought I was going to be you. I wanted to be you. But that never happened. I was never going to be you. And I found that out. And it angered me. And now I swore to destroy you and all of that. Like, if they dove into that, and that was what he was going to do, and this fight happens, where he's like, I'm going to take you back, I'm going to kill you here, we're going to fight throughout time, and then that fight happens, and he goes back in time, and he's unsuccessful in killing young Barry. And it's like, they do that the entire season, where the entire season is him trying to, figure out who the Flash is, and then he finally figures it out. He finds out who he is, and then goes back in time to that night to try and kill him, and Barry goes back too, and Barry saves his younger version's life, and we get that scene again, but from the perspective of older Barry this time, the one where, we do in the end of season 1, where he goes back and he's about to save his mother's life, and he sees the older version of himself, and he puts his hand up and shakes his head no. If we get that from the perspective of older Barry, and then on top of it, what I would do if it were me, and I were doing that, I would do like an interstitial cut of that scene with various things that happened that show that this is a world-weary guy who knows what will happen if he messes with the timeline. Like, you show clips of Flashpoint, Wally dying, and you show clips of the conversation with, what's his name? With Jay about how the timeline works with the mug. You do clips of that. You do, all of the other bad shit that happens, and it's like, this is someone who has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he knows, and he's like, this is the right thing to do. And to an extent, it's not even the weight of the world. It's a moment of not bliss, but a moment of release, where it's, all of this happened to him, and he went through all this trauma, and rather than let it define him in a way, it's going to be the thing that liberates him. And it's like, this is a key moment for you. This happened to me a long time ago. And I think that that's a much better, that would be a great way to end the show. Where it's like, that moment of him seeing his younger self there, the version of him from season 1 peeking out, ready to step in and save his mother's life. And then he has the moment of clarity, saying the right thing to do is to let her die. Because so much more happens because of that. Like, you can do, all the other things that have happened, like, even if it's, like, the family he found, where it's, like, you see, like, Joe, and you see Iris and the wedding, and, you can show, like, his friendships, where it's, like, him with, Cisco and Caitlin, him with Kara, him with Oliver, and, like, there are so many things you can cut into this scene, that would make it resonate and work really well, I think. I think it would be a very interesting way to end that show off, would be for him to be like, all of the things that happened, of all that could have gone wrong, it was stopped, and that's his moment of serenity to an extent. I think that would be a great way to end off the show. Now, is it guaranteed it's going to end that way? No. But I think that's, if you know you're going into a final season, the best thing you can do is wrap everything up with a tight bow. Like, Supergirl knew it was going into its last season, so they did what they did, whatever they did. I haven't watched it yet. I just know how it ends at the very end. And there's also the, what's it called? Like, Arrow went into Season 8 knowing that was going to be Season 8. And that was going to be, its final season. So it like, and that's the thing too, is like, when we watch Season 7 of Arrow, Season 7 of Arrow really feels like the finale of Arrow. Arrow Season 8 feels like prelude to Crisis, then a backdoor pilot, and then then a series finale. And I feel like that's that it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is, kind of interesting to me that that's how the show went out. Especially considering it is the show that spawned everything. And I think the best thing that, the Flash can do is acknowledge all of that. And I don't think the Flash going out in a crisis is going to be the thing that saves it. But if it is the final season, I just want, like, can we get back Kara and Oliver one more time? Like, that's my only request for this impending Season 9 that I didn't think we were going to get to begin with. Can we get one episode or a scene with the three of them together again? Because the relationships between the three were always some of the best parts of the crossovers. Especially, like, the relationship between Barry and Oliver was so well done and so unique, especially when juxtaposed with everything else that Oliver had going on in his life and every other relationship in his life. Like, the way that his relationship with Barry developed and changed, and it grew into, like, this, like, almost brotherly camaraderie between the two of them. And it just worked so well. And like, I just feel like it's going to be a missed opportunity, I think, to not have them there all together at the same time. Also, it is kind of weird that, like, no one has acknowledged that Supergirl has outed herself. It is, I mean, she's off-world, but it does still seem a little weird to me. Yeah, so I think that's really it. I don't know what else to say about this. I mean, I'm looking, like, look, I got through Season 5. I am one of the people who got through Season 5 of The Flash. I will continue to watch this show until the bitter end. At this point, I've gotten here. It's like, Arrow, I got through Season 4 of Arrow. I will get through whatever nonsense the Flash throws at us. Even if it is a little bit wonky at times, and it's not entirely the best quality, I will get through it and I will watch it, and, but I think that's really where they should go for this Season 9 that is allegedly happening. I don't think it's been officially renewed for Season 9, but I think that that contract being signed is the first major indicator, considering he's year to year at this point. So yeah, and look, $3 million, You can do a lot with $3 million. So yeah, I'm completely on board with this. Let's see where they go. I think that's the best way to do it. And if the writer's room wants me to come in and look at it and be like, hey, this is a cool idea. Is this a good idea? I'd be, happy to do that. Not that necessarily they want me or anything. It's so arrogant of me to be like, hey, hey, people whose job it is to do this, do you want me, a guy who watches the show, to come in and be like, hey, this is good? Like, oh well. I don't know. I feel like there's a great opportunity here for things to happen in an interesting way, and I hope they take the ball and run with it rather than ruin it, I guess would be the right word. Because I think that's the thing, is if the show doesn't stick the landing, like a gymnastics routine, if the show doesn't stick the landing, that's what we remembered. It's like Lost did not stick the landing. So, like, people remember Lost as, not great, and it just doesn't stick the landing. It's like, that's the thing. As long as, and I've talked about it before, as long as the last 2 minutes are good, people will forgive everything else. Look at Rogue One, which has a lot of nothing going on until they get the Scarif. And then after that, it's, one of the best Star Wars movies. And I think that's the kind of thing we have to look at and be like, if they can stick the landing, any misgivings people had about past seasons will be completely out the window. Especially if the movie sucks. If the movie is not good, then that will definitely also help. So yeah. What else do I want to do? I think that's it. So we'll wrap up there for today, and we'll be back with more as it happens. So until our next big news story, have a great rest of your week.